Good morning, everyone. My name is Liza Earl Centers. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the director of this congregation's Lifespan Spiritual Exploration Program. And this is my assistant, often, many days. What's your name?
Marissa.
Marissa. And our time for all ages this morning is called Two Spirits, One Dance. And I have a really beautiful dancer that I'm hoping to share with you. But first, I have put something in the Wonder Box to get us started. It's different than most weeks' Wonder Box. Marissa has been wondering about what's in it. Some weeks she actually knows, but this week is a surprise for her. It's a little tricky for me to hand it to her. Well, there's a problem today, Marissa. What's in the Wonder Box?
Hula hoops.
Hula hoops. And what's different than most weeks?
Most weeks it fits in the box.
Yes, most weeks what's in the Wonder Box actually fits, but the hoops this week, they're just too big to fit. They don't even fit in the Zoom screen. Look at that. And sometimes we say that about people who are different than what we expect or how we assume to be. Sometimes we say, they just don't fit in a box. Like a silly example is when I was a kid, maybe you know this, I didn't like maple syrup. And most people outside of Vermont thinks that everyone from Vermont practically drinks maple syrup, right? I didn't fit in their box of what a Vermonter was. And people make assumptions all the time. For example, when a baby is born, people often say, it's a boy or it's a girl, right? And sometimes those assumptions that we make because of their body parts are true. And sometimes as they grow up, we actually find out that they inside know that they are actually not a boy or not a girl. Some of you heard our student minister last year did a great time for all ages about their child who was in this group of people, gender expansive, or we use the word transgender, right? And we have a lot of words to describe people who don't fit in the boy gender box or the girl gender box. And a lot of these terms are new for many of us, transgender or gender expansive or gender fluid, but it actually turns out that cultures all over the world and all throughout time have had words for this group of people and special roles that they might play in their culture or their ceremonies. And many people in North America, Indigenous people, have a special word for people who don't fit in these gender boxes. I read that the Navajo or Dene people use the word naglihe, and it means one who changes or one who transforms. And at one point, about 30 years ago, in 1990, a group of Native Americans from around the continent got together and they decided instead of having a separate word in each of their languages, it might be helpful to lift up gender expansive people to have a special term that all tribes use or could use if they would like to. And that word is two-spirit. I invite all of you to say that with me. Two-spirit. And sometimes you might see those letters LGBTQ, and sometimes there's a 2 on the end of it, and that's what the 2 is referring to, this Indigenous term. And I would like to introduce you in a video to someone named Ty Defoe, and he is from the Ojibwe and Anishinaabe tribes. He uses the gender pronouns he, but identifies as two-spirit. And in addition to be two-spirit, he is a great dancer, a great teacher, and artist. And our theme this month is deep listening. And last week with the kids and families, we talked about that's a little different than regular listening, right? Do you remember the sign that we came up? We put our hands on our heart And I invite you all to put your hands on your heart right now and say, deep listening. Say it with me. Deep listening. Because when we practice deep listening, not only are we really focused on listening and not thinking about what we want to say, but we're not just listening with our ears, we're listening with our hearts to hear their feelings. And as you listen to Ty talk, I want you to really hear what he's saying about the interconnectedness of all people, of all genders, of the two-legged people and the four-legged animals and the winged ones. And he says this dance that he does with the hoops from his culture is his prayer, especially to the two-spirit youth who he does not want to have to feel like they need to hide or that they need to try to fit into a box. So let's listen to Ty and send that same prayer out to all of our youth and to people everywhere, that they don't need to fit in boxes.
It's decolonizing things that were placed upon Indigenous people in the way that this dance means that you can use your body and celebrate who you are, how your spirit wants to move. The idea is that all of these spirits are sort of presented in each person, that you're not necessarily switching from one gender to the next, but you're transcending gender. The hoop dance represents the interconnectedness of all people, how two spirits, as well as like other folks in the Indigenous community, as well as people just in life of the red, the white, the yellow, the black, no matter who you are intertwined and interconnected. Not just people, but our two-legged, our four-legged, our winged, our rooted, the sun, the moon, the stars, how we're all connected together, and that at this day and age that two spirits also have a space in that. I dance especially for our two-spirit youth so that they can feel reaffirmed and that they will have the medicine and the power to claim who they are and not hide. So when I do these dances, it's a form of a prayer in motion, and that's something I want to give back to the world.
So thanks for listening, everybody. And let's think of all the ways in our language and way of speaking that we can be inclusive and not have people go into two boxes. I'm trying to say children instead of boys and girls, or bring your parents instead of moms and dads.